Sauntering in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Life Matters TV. I'm Tommy Stoffel in kind of sunny and kind of cloudy, sometimes rainy and sometimes beautiful Kauai this week. So having a nice, relaxing time here. And today, the magic in the mystery is the title of the show, which means we really don't know what we're doing today. We're going to play it by ear and wing it as we go, but I'm sure some good things will come out of it. And I'll turn it over to my my partner, co-host on the show, David McLeod. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Tommy. And, you know, it's funny you say that as if, you know, on the regular shows we actually know what we're doing, which, I have to say, I think we have fun most of the time. And part of the reason that we have so much fun here is because we allow stuff to just kind of flow and see where it takes us. Now, we usually come in with some kind of a topic. We come in with an idea of where we're going to go, and we maybe even have some talking points. But this time, we decided to plan absolutely nothing and just see what happens. So the way I promoted this, I actually posted a question to the people on my list, and I asked them very, very simply, so what happens when you have no idea what's going to happen? And then I said, you know, Tommy and I are going to talk about that today. And when I ask the question, I say, what happens when you don't know what's going to happen? I really mean, what's happening internally? What's going on inside you when maybe you have anticipation about what's going on or what you expect to happen, but it doesn't turn out that way? And so I guess that's where we're going with this.
Yeah, and just as you spoke that, David, things popped in of what does happen, right? And a lot of times, and I'll just talk about myself and in my lifetime, a lot of times a lot of nervousness comes up, right? Especially if it's something we don't know what's going on and we have some, again, back to the expectations, or we're worried about if we're going to get somebody's approval. All that stuff fits in here, but a lot of nerves come up. We talk about butterflies and we talk about the not sures, and where that often leads us is to not doing something. And that's where it starts to impact our lives. We talk about our thoughts that lead to our actions, that lead to our results. And if our thoughts are kind of getting caught up in that anxiety or that fear or that fear of the unknown, then we're not always kind of living our life. We're not living our life freely, right?
Yeah. That's actually a really good point that you brought up there, and I'm just going to paraphrase it slightly. Not knowing leads to indecision. And I think that's a great piece for us to remember, because I know that's certainly been true in my life. If I don't know everything that I think I need to know, then I kind of feel frozen. I kind of feel like, geez, if I make the decision without knowing, then it may be the wrong decision, And so that leads me to just kind of, maybe go back and forth between 2 or 3 or more possible choices without actually choosing anything. And I find that to be a really debilitating experience for myself.
Yeah, it does, and it led me to being a worrier, because professionally I get paid to control things. As a project manager in my life, I get paid to control budgets, money. I get paid to control people, quote unquote, and I get paid to control schedules. Mm-hmm. And I'm designed to be a control freak. And when I can't see the end result because I can't control most of those things, right, that can lead you to indecision. That can lead you to not making progress, procrastination, not really breaking out of your shell and being who you're here to be. And that's what we're going to start talking into, is that a lot of us do this. And I'm not talking so much about our professional careers, but kind of our purpose here of what we're here to do.
Yeah, on the planet.
Yeah, and if we're getting stuck there, which I know a lot of us are, that's what we need to break through, and that's what I want to get down to and talk to today.
Yeah, that's good. And another thing that I realize is, even though we may not be aware of it, making no decision at all is in fact a form of decision. We are choosing not to decide, and that it sounds a little bit convoluted and maybe confusing, but really that's what we're doing. And so we're creating our own reality by not making a decision. It's very important for us to realize that.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so last week we talked about freedom, And in that conversation of freedom, we talked about, I actually put out kind of a challenge out there and said, if you've ever had the feeling that you've had a purpose, whether you had it when you were young, or you've had it, different parts of your life, or you feel like you're missing something right now, then this has to be where we get, the rubber meets the road here. What's blocking us? What's blocking us from moving forward? Mm-hmm. And we can say words pop up like fear or worry or what if or anxiety or I don't know what's going to happen if I do this. So David, let's dive in and start figuring out how to kind of untie some of those knots and get to that that place of being free to be in the moment. Yeah. It's all about being here again, mm-hmm. taking chances and taking risk and doing what we feel in our heart that we're supposed to be doing.
Right. Well, part of what I have learned in my life is that most often, at least to be honest with you, I can't think of a single situation where something turned out so devastatingly bad that my life and the life of hundreds of other people were at risk because of some decision I made. It's never ever been that way. Usually, when I'm not sure about something and I make a decision and I choose a path, it may turn out that it's not the right path. But now I have some additional information that I didn't have before, and so I can kind of review my choices and say, all right, is it too late to turn back? Is it too late to take a detour? What can I do to make this work? That's really what it's all about. But at least having made the decision, that sense of fear that I had before about not knowing which decision to choose tends to go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're talking into the facing your fears, like the things we're afraid of. Usually when we do them or face them or approach them, we get through them and we look back and say that wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as my imagination made it out to be. Right? It all comes back to our head. Everything mm-hmm. we're talking about is going to come back to our crazy noggin up here that talks us out of things, throws around fears, and as human beings, we have to get back into trusting a lot of people say our hearts. I like to call it our energy system. I like to call it our awareness. But we have this sense, this ability to know the truth, to know what's right. And that's, David, what I've had to do, to untie to quiet this freaking thing between my ears enough yeah. so I can feel my way through life. And mm-hmm. and it's an everyday practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another good point. You talk about feeling your way through life, and I think if I'm understanding you right, you're not talking about feeling in the sense of using fingers. You're talking about the intuitive feeling, and I think that's a really important message for everybody. I think we tend to put way too much stock in our five senses. We kind of have this belief that if we can see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, or smell it, then it exists. Otherwise, it doesn't. And that's just our logical left brain talking to us. So it's interesting to me that you bring up this notion of feeling our way through life rather than thinking our way through life. And I think that's a real important distinction to make. So thank you for that.
We met like a couple days ago. We met some, I'll call them kids. They were late 20-something-year-olds, and they're traveling around Kauai with their life on their back intentionally. And one of the guys said to me, or the guy and his girlfriend, he said to me, we're practicing walking around in life trusting our gut. Mm-hmm. He didn't say those words, but they're actually practicing that as they're pretty much homeless, but intentionally. They're wandering around camping and I like, that's it. We have to practice this. We have to practice this feeling, right? And it's not tactile, because that is all left brain, and that's where we've gotten out of touch with our sixth sense, right? We call it our sixth sense. We don't get taught about how to use it because, again, throughout history we've lost that somehow. But it's time to bring that back. It's absolutely time, and the best way I've found to do it is to be able to quiet the noise in my head so I can feel better. And not feel better physically, right? And not feel better health-wise, but to sense things better.
Right. It's interesting that the way you talk about that, because Josa just posted a real interesting statement here. The eternal dilemma of humans, free will. Why do so many souls want to experience this? And I think that's a great question, and it ties right into what we're talking about here. I think that free will is an important part of the decision or of the process, but you can't have free will if you don't recognize a choice. That's the way I see it, anyway.
I think. Well, yeah, we all have free will. As humans, we have free will. That's one of the gifts that we come with. Again, it's making choices and decisions, like you said, in that space of free will. And what are we trusting? What are we listening to? What's our guidance system? Is it, the parent? Is it the teacher? Is it the religion? Is it what's out there? And every time we do that out there, we always, we know it's going to come right back in here. No, The answers are in here. And I very intentionally, I'm going to stand up. I'm hitting my heart here, because this is kind of the core of our sensors, our energy sensors. And when I was young, about 12 years old, and I might have told the story already, my dog got killed by a bus, and I shut my heart down. I just, bam, I'm not going to ever be hurt like that again. And what I realized 30 years later was that I had become what I like to call a thinkaholic. I couldn't feel anymore. I wasn't trusting myself to sense the world. And I had to think everything through. Now think about that. We try to build computers that are artificially intelligent. Well, they're never going to get there because they can't feel.
Yeah.
And when you have to think, all that thinking power, you have to walk into a room and you have to think, if it's safe or not. Oh, the processing that has to go on in our heads. If my brain were gears, there'd be smoke coming out of my ears for 30 years of my life. Burning. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So so getting back to, Joseph, we have free will, but we have to learn what to trust, how to follow our free will, and that's what we're talking about here is trusting our internal guidance system.
Well, isn't trust really the key point here? Because if you don't know what's going to happen, then you just simply have to trust that everything is going to be okay, that you are going to be okay, that I am going to be okay. I have to trust that no matter what happens, it's all going to turn into a beautiful world. And I mean, in my experience, so far, that's pretty much been the case. No matter what's happened in my life, I've always been able to kind of look back on it and say, wow, I got a lot out of that. And without that experience, I wouldn't be where I am here today. I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. I wouldn't be able to share what I share today. I wouldn't be able to love with as much of an open heart as I have now, because I wouldn't have learned all the lessons that I've learned thus far. And so the not knowing, I mean, if I had known back then, who knows if I would have made the same choices, I might have made completely different choices that led me to a whole new dimension that wouldn't be here right now. So trusting is the critical piece here, trusting that Spirit has me, my soul has me, universal certainty has me.
Yeah, that's beautiful and a big wow. Thanks for saying that out loud, because it is. And when we have words like we're going with the flow, and and that trust that what's going to happen, that things are going to work out the right way. Along that way, we have decisions to make, right? So we have to use our mind as a tool, as the tool it is, to help collect information and guide. But along the way too. So you're not going to shut down the brain and just kind of coast through life. There is an element of thought process. But what we started with earlier in the beginning of the show was that the way our minds are trained right now, our minds like to talk us out of things more than talk us into things, or more than trusting with the flow. And but right on, man. When you get to that place of trust, and I work on it every day. It's part of my daily meditation. It's part of my daily practice. I listen for things. I ask for guidance, and then I kind of wait for the answers to come in different ways, and feel what feels right. I think Kristen talked about it. You asked her, how do you make good decisions? How do you know you're making the right decision? And she said, well, it feels calm, and it feels right.
Yep.
As opposed to feeling rushed and have to do it.
Right.
And that's how she separates this thing leading the way or this thing leading the way.
Yeah, I think we're getting into another area. We may have talked about this before. I don't know, but what I'm realizing now, and something that I really want to articulate and bring out to the forefront, is the brain, my ego mind, its purpose is to keep me safe in this physical world, and so it really starts out from a fear-based approach. It's always looking for danger and looking for ways to avoid danger. My heart, on the other hand, which is connected into my soul, doesn't experience things in the same way. It knows that everything is okay, and it comes from a place of love, and it tries to lead me from that place. And I think this is why the heart and soul tends to be so much quieter and so much more relaxed and so much more calm, whereas the mind is frantic trying to get me to do stuff, you know, and it's loud. And so therefore it's sometimes really hard to just kind of quiet the mind and get back to this place in my heart so that I can really follow the truth, to trust and to make the choice that is going to lead me along the path of my spiritual purpose. That's what the real challenge is.
You're spot on, man. Spot on. And I heard this joke when I was young, when I was 5 years old, and I never remembered a joke in my life except for this stupid joke. So these two kids are playing hide and seek. One is called None of Your Business, and the other kid's name is Trouble. Trouble's it. So None of Your Business goes out in the neighborhood and hides, and he's hiding in this neighbor's bush. And the neighbor's sitting on his porch, and he goes, "Hey, kid." And None of Your Business looks back and goes, "Shh." He goes, "Hey, kid, what are you doing?" He goes, "Shh." He goes, "What's your name?" He goes, "None of your business." He goes, "Hey, kid, don't get wise with me. What's your name?" He goes, "None of your business." He goes, "Hey, you looking for trouble?" He goes, "No, trouble's looking for me."
That's great.
But we do, right? Our brains are conditioned to go looking for trouble.
That's right. I love it. That's awesome.
And if you're looking for trouble all the time, you know, there's a point to do that, but not to let that run your game, right? Because if you're always looking for trouble, you're always going to anticipate. And what did somebody tell me once? 99% of the stuff we worry about never happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we think about that, looking for trouble, how much energy do we waste looking for trouble? How much energy do we waste thinking things, possibilities through? This scenario ends in that, this scenario ends in that, this scenario, and then we go around in these loops and loops and loops and loops and loops, wasting all this brain space when we should be paying attention more to quieting that brain space and trusting and feeling through life. Right. Yeah.
You know, and the interesting thing, while we're going through those loops, as you describe them, we're not gaining any more knowledge about what it is we're trying to know more about anyway. That's the irony about it. It's not improving our situation at all. In fact, if anything, it's just making it a lot worse, because all it's doing is building up that fear level, and so that's putting us into freeze mode, so we don't make a decision, we don't decide, and we end up, you know, doing nothing.
Exactly. We get frozen. What is it? Analysis paralysis, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So so let's think about some things we can talk about, some things to kind of break some of those brain patterns. We have talked about them, and I just want to remind some people, that's what we've been doing in many of these shows. So a lot of times our minds get caught up in approval, right? And we stop doing something because we're afraid we're going to lose somebody's approval or not, you know, get their certificate of appreciation. And so there's that thing to watch, and I'm going to keep doing this with my head because that's where this is. And, we talked about what else? We talked about control, but we haven't talked about control in a big sense yet. Mm-hmm. But basically, a lot of us are control freaks, and we talked about that last week. And there's an element of we can't control a lot of stuff. Right.
And not only that, but the things that we think we can control, that's probably just an illusion anyway. So.
Well, because we have our sphere of control, which is a small bubble, which pretty much ends right here in front of me.
Yeah, that's right.
I can control, once my brain calms the freak down, I can control what I'm doing and how I'm acting and how I'm reacting, just responding to situations instead of reacting. Mm-hmm. But then we have a sphere of influence, right? And that's maybe the people around us and our job, and there's people we can influence, and this audience, like the people we're talking to right now, and you and I, you know, we're influencing each other in the way we're thinking and behaving, and that's nice. And then most of the world is really out of our control. If I know people who sit at home and they're like all worried about the people who are starving here and the wars that are going on there and the deaths that's happening here and the drama that's happening there, and really, you may be able to get some point in your life where you can, you know, help, and whether financially or some way you can help make that in your sphere of influence. But right now, it's a lot of us have to just really focus on ourselves, what we can control here, and get that under control, get this under control.
Right. So it sounds like one of the first things that we can do in this process is maybe a little bit of self-examination.
Mm.
And we've talked a lot about meditation, and maybe I just like to say that for me, I've mentioned this before, but meditation is really nothing more than being fully present in the here and now. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I don't have to be sitting down in a special way or adopting a certain kind of breathing pattern or any of that stuff. Those things can all help, but they aren't the things that get me fully present. It's me noticing what's going on right now, right here. Now, if I can do that, then I can maybe look at the thoughts that are coming up in my head, and I can start to just invite them in and say, okay, great, what am I thinking about? Oh, I'm thinking about all the starving children in Africa, and that's got me all churned up and worried. Now, what can I do about that right now? Okay, maybe I can't do anything about it, but I can certainly send out some loving energy to them, and now I can let the thought go. I can then look at the next thought, and I can say, what's next? Oh, I'm worried that my daughter is going to be not going to be able to go to the piano recital because her mom is sick, or who knows what it is. So how much control do I have over that? So I think what you're talking about is, first off, itemizing the things that I'm worried about, and then deciding what can I do about it.
Yep. I sometimes talk to, in my training in the Chatter Relaxer, I say, do it or drop it. Do something about it. Whether you said, like, even if it's, loving energy, giving, sending your loving blessings in that direction of where there's pain and suffering. That's a beautiful thing. You've done it right, and you nailed it on the head, David. And then drop it, because otherwise, what we're doing is we've got it in our bag of rocks. We've got it in our bag of our big sack of emotional worry and crap, and that breaks backs, and it stops moving forward. You said it last week. You said, I feel like my bag is anchored to something. It's sometimes, and it gets caught on a snag. So, but what you said there of have that thought and drop it, let it go, and let it go.
Right.
That's moment to moment living. We're making decisions. We're processing information. We're feeling, how it feels. Does it mucking up? You said it beautifully. I'm thinking about these people who are suffering, and it's mucking me up inside. Well, okay. Well, turn that muck into beauty, because you have that power, and give that, and then drop whatever that thought was that's causing the muck. Mm-hmm. Really important daily practice.
So what we're talking about is a kind of an internal transformation, and something that we have the power to do. As you said, we are manipulators of energy. We have that power. We can take anything, no matter how dark and mucky or dirty that we might imagine it to be, and we can turn it into gold. We can pass it out and return it out to the world as a jewel that the world can benefit from. We have that power, and that's one thing we have control over, because that's all internal work. And as who was it? I think it was Mahatma Gandhi said, we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. So that's it. That's my thought for the moment.
That's a beautifully felt thought, and that we are creators, and we absolutely do have that ability. I'll say it again, because you said it, and I want this to sink in deep. We do have that ability through how we think to change energy. Energy can either be created or destroyed, but its form can change, and we are form changers of energy. We can take, like you said, even that example of there's suffering going on, and something horrible is going on the planet. Our mind, we can either sit there and churn it into mud, or we can purify that water and just give it out, as just send that love in that direction. That is within our ability, within our free will as human beings to do. Right. And that's what we all have to do. We have to do that on this planet. We have to get, if you're sitting on your asses, if you're still hitting the wall, if you're still procrastinating on your purpose, or you haven't really come to peace with it yet, get off your butts. This is what we're here to do. We've got to get to work. If you're already working, thank you so much. If you're kind of coming out of it, then great. We're here to help do that. If you're still stuck and still like hitting your head against the wall and suffering and waking up worried and all that stuff, reach out to us. That's what we're here. That's what we're here to help with. That's why David and I are here talking to you right now. The bottom line of what we're doing is to help every one of us. We can lift up together, and we can energize and become the good creators that we are intended to be.
Yeah. As you were talking there and pointing to the different sides of your head, I was remembering another workshop I did not that long ago where the facilitator was talking about you have 2 radio stations that you can tune into. One of them is the one that chatters at you, and it's called K-Fuck, K-F-U-K. The other one that you can tune into is more down here in your heart, and it's called K-Love, K-L-U-V. Which radio station are you going to listen to? That's a choice you get to make.
That is a choice. It's a choice once we get the K-Fuck chatter box under control. Because it wasn't a choice for me, some years back. I didn't know there was a choice, and and this thing was out of control. This thing was running the ship. There had been a mutiny somewhere in my and the crazy pirates were running the ship, and but I freed the captain now, and everyone's back to doing their job. They're swapping the deck or keeping a lookout. The brain's doing its stuff, right? Looking out for rocks, looking out for other danger. That's the crew's doing their work now, but they're not running the ship anymore. They're not. They're not in mutiny.
I really love that metaphor, Tommy. I know you've shared that with me before, and I always laugh when I hear you talk about it because I can resonate with it. It feels like a very accurate metaphor, something that I deal with in my own life. And I'm not even sure that the captain's always completely in charge. Sometimes those, the second in command is just, getting the guys all drunk or something and taking over for a little while, having a party in my head.
that happens too, but overall the ship goes in the right direction because the captain, he or she knows the general where to steer, where the port of destination is, and that gets back to the trusting, right? Trust that your inner captain, that your inner sage, that your inner guide, that your inner higher self, however we call it, knows the way, knows the path that you're supposed to be on. And right. That's where your internal guidance system will guide you if you when you learn and as you perfect listening to it. And that means that these delusions, all this knucklehead mutiny stuff in your head has to be chilled down.
Yeah, right. And so what this does is it brings us back almost full circle to the title of our episode, which was The Magic and the Mystery. We started off with this idea of not knowing, which to me, that's what the mystery is all about. If you don't know, then it's kind of a mystery. But we've also pointed out that there's beautiful gold that can show up in that mystery. And for me, that's where the magic comes in. I think it's a nice way to wrap the whole picture and to provide a kind of a little golden-colored bow around the whole gift that we're offering here today. And so what I'd like to do, what's one quick exercise that we could pass on to our viewers that they can take with them for the coming week?
So, practice trusting your guidance system. Practice making decisions that are based on what feels calm and what feels peaceful. And practice distinguishing between the noisy chatter over here and the calm K-Love voice of the right brain and the heart. Practice that. And every time you come to a decision, not every decision, not what you're going to have for breakfast, but there's times in your day when you have to make a decision, and just settle in and feel it. And maybe get quiet in the head. Say, shut up, brain, and quiet down. Hit the pause button, quiet down, and ask yourself the question again, and then feel the answer. That, right. I think, is where we've been guiding people.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Tommy. Thank you. And really, what I'd like to say about that is that when we get our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our feelings all kind of lined up, so everything's kind of pointing in the same direction, that is a great place to be. And that is a place that I call a state of integrity. In fact, that's what Tommy and I are going to be talking about in some detail next week. We're going to bring that whole subject of integrity to life, and we're going to have some fun with that. So until next week, thank you for joining us. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye from Hawaii. See you next week.